Recording has started.
Raksha, I'll start, right?
Yeah, yeah. Ekta, over to you.
So,
Please.
hello all, very good afternoon. Myself, Ekta Dubey, and on behalf of the Brinalytics team and our title partner, Avaya India, we welcome you all and thank you so much for being part of our roundtable, which is Reimagining BPO through digital lenses. To start with, I would like to introduce our title partner, Avaya India. Businesses are built on the experiences they provide, and every day, millions of those experiences are built by Avaya. For over 100 years, they have enabled organizations around the globe to win by creating intelligent communication experiences for customers and employees. Avaya builds open, converged, and innovative solutions to enhance and simplify communications and collaborations in the cloud, on the premise, or a hybrid of both. To grow your businesses, they are committed to innovation, partnership, and a relentless focus on what's next. They are the technology companies you trust to help you deliver experiences that matter. To start with the keynote, I'm happy to introduce Mr. Gavin Rodrigues, APS Managing Principal at Avaya, who would share his interesting insights on connecting the BPO dots, scope, and shape of the digital BPO. Thank you, Gavin, for joining us, and over to you to start.
Sure. Thanks, Ekta. Warm welcome to all panelists and guests, and hope I'll be able to share a few thoughts as to how Avaya has progressed in this in this world of delivering digital solutions as well as delivering experiences. Ekta, I'll just share my screen, so do confirm if that's basically populated at your end. Has it come through?
Yes.
Perfect. So, like Ekta talked about, a lot of stuff in terms of how Avaya has been connecting people across the globe, right? I would like to start off with one beautiful saying. It goes like, people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And that's the same principle that Avaya is basically defined by. And in today's world, like what we have seen, the new change with the pandemic coming in, right? The transformation that we have gone through on the personal front, on IT front, and across the globe. That's been huge, right? So, and we are almost in the fourth industrial revolution. It represents a fusion of advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, and so on, right? So the introduction of Google driverless car, right? That's one big innovation that we've also seen. Uh, Being able to just buy a robotic, I would say, exoskeleton to enable to walk again. The payments that we make today, the social media, online searches, right? So everything that we are basically doing today has basically changed the way we behaved maybe a decade back, right? And with the pandemic, it's only progressed to the next level, which is really, really massive. Because of this, the way we shop, the way we travel, entertainment, everything has basically changed. And so have our customers, right? And along with customers, you might have also noticed during the pandemic how employees also have changed, right? So the way they work from home is completely different from the way they worked at office, right? In office, they had the complete focus of the mentors guiding them through an SME team. Working with home, everything changed for them. All of a sudden, they were sitting in silos. They had to get onto conference calls with customers and their mentors, right? So that has also changed the way we function today, right? And that's where Gartner's also come up and talking about this new phrase, the everything customer, right? So this everything customer basically wants to do things in a different manner, right? They want to basically shop online, but they want to be at the comfort of an in-store experience as well, right? They want to serve themselves, but at times they also interact. Also, they want to interact with a human being, right? At times they basically want to interact over WhatsApp, messengers, Alexa for that matter. but at the same time, they want to resort to traditional phone calls. Uh, to put my point simply, I would say that they need to be connected, but at the same time, need to be left alone, treated equally, but served uniquely. A consistent and expected service, but a pleasantly surprised with the unexpected. So the bottom line is, as customers, we want a lot, right? And delivering customer experience ambitions today for every organization is more difficult than ever before because we want to consume services the same way we do like streaming music, right? We would want to define what looks good, what doesn't look good, and what should be the next level, right? Ultimately, we want the services we use and the experiences that we have needs to be more composed, right? We want this to be applied to every device. So we would want it to be supported from the modality of all modalities rather, and leverage its any new capabilities, typing, gestures, touch, and feel today, right? So that's the experience that today's customer is looking forward to. And in order to deliver such solutions, we need a completely next level or a new platform altogether. So how does that particular platform evolve, right? So it needs to be evolving and making the customer journey more effortless. Because as customers, an effortless journey tends to become uh, the catch point for a particular customer and eventually makes them a brand that they would want to look up to and would want to be associated with, right? Global organizations today talk about customer experience, but they have to go to the next level and look at customer experience from a different paradigm because with the pandemic coming in, the employee experience also became a pinnacle point in the customer experience journey because you all know, right? An engaged employee delivers a far better customer experience when he or she is speaking to your customers. That's where uh, a lot of stuff and emphasis has gone into the user experience. People are talking about multi experience being critical as well, right? So when we connect experience across devices and touch points, the interactions are more improved, the user experience gets better, resulting in employee and customer experience to the next level. To sum it up, customer experience, employee experience, user experience, and multi experience are critical in its own rights, right? But when you focus on the total experience, it addresses all the constituent parts holistically, bringing traditionally siloed areas like processes, resources, applications, and data across business together becomes the focus on all elements. And that's where at Avaya we talk about the total experience that we deliver to our customers today. So how do we do this, right? So Avaya One Cloud is the solution that provides a platform and brings in this total experience journey across a particular customer, an enterprise, or basically connecting people across the globe. It puts your customers at the center of your business, builds on top of it. You leverage it along with your existing investment. So you don't need to basically shut shop with whatever you have as an infrastructure today. This basically helps you in reducing your infrastructure costs and drive efficiencies at the same time. I would call it an experience platform and not just a deployment model or an application, right? Because it's focused on delivering the total experience. The level of integration that Avaya One Cloud brings has completely blurred the lines of segregation, I would say, uh, so that our organizations that use us today, right, benefit from the full ecosystem of the Avaya portfolio, right? We can connect to where customers are. For example, if there is an Azure shop for CRM, right? Avaya One Cloud can connect to the cloud enabling capabilities with just a click, for example, a click to chat kind of a capability using your CRM, right? So that's the next level where Avaya One Cloud has progressed. Adding to the AI capabilities, Avaya's AI workflow orchestration engine connects to all voice, digital, I would say AI mini apps, services, including likes of Google, Nuance, Amazon, IBM Watson, right? And bots as well, which can interact with any other platform, and bringing all this available on a single platform. Because when you serve your customers and would want to give the total experience, you would want to pick the best of the breed across the entire ecosystem. That's where Avaya One Cloud's AI orchestrator helps you enable that particular feature across other applications as well. It enables both IT and business to compose and modify applications. And this also helps in bridging the legacy applications and cloud platforms and bring them together under one interface, which makes it much more visual, gives you a better employee as well as customer experience, and eventually a complete total experience, right? So I believe that the capabilities across the pillars that Avaya One Cloud is built around provides total experience. The first pillar, which we basically have here, is getting connected. It's all about connecting customers with employees, be it voice or many digital channels, social, and so on. So you can also bring your own channel, right? So for that matter, if you have already a spent amount in infrastructure on a particular channel like a Facebook or a Twitter, we could basically help you with bringing your own channel there. Secondly, process orchestration, right? It's all about building use cases and business cases, leveraging existing applications such as CRM to ensure customer journeys and employee journeys are basically orchestrated in the same manner. The same information flows consistently across enterprise, across touch points. Managing resources, employees with the right tools, insight, and improve in performance in real time, right? That visibility basically creates a competitive spirit across resources and drives customer experience automatically, right? And lastly, a lot of organizations today are looking at consolidating the knowledge material, right? So tons and tons of material lies in your repositories. But how do your resources basically use that to basically orchestrate uh, or convert that into a customer insight or a experience that customers would basically be wowed with? That particular layer is where we are talking about knowledge and insights, right? It brings in a lot of cognitive capabilities. We're using AI, which basically brings in information from your repositories, projects it to your resources in real time without even they basically going ahead and typing information. So that's a way forward for any organization that we have seen. And across these three pillars, the Avaya One Cloud story becomes much more stronger as well. We can also connect to leading cloud platforms like Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and IBM, right? It provides an extensive list of market leaders in their own right. So the areas of expertise across today's a lot of OEMs, right? We're already connected with the likes of Verint, Calabrio, Google, Affinity, and many more. So that also enables you as a business owner to leverage best in the breed applications depending upon which customers you're serving. Every segment we could bring in a different player on the same platform, right? So it gives you a complete flexibility as to how you would consume Avaya One Cloud by supporting public, private, and hybrid options. It's also powered by intelligent automation that realizes the benefits of deep machine learning to drive efficiency, speed, and agility to deployment as well, right? Uh, I would call it as a technology differentiator because this enables public and private clouds to be deployed in the same amount of time, providing you, I would say, highly advanced, integrated, value-focused private cloud solutions, right? It's a single tenanted and dedicated to you, but it can be spun up in days. In other words, in the speed of a public cloud as well. And lastly, I would leave you with a case study that we have at Avaya that's being leveraged by this customer across. 100,000 agents across 14 countries and close to 130 site sorts. It enables this customer Lorica to scale up and scale down depending upon the fluctuations during the normal and peak periods. Uh, and with this, I would basically pause here and would like to hear from our esteemed panelists as to how you all ensure success within your own domains using today's technology and also bringing the customer and employee experience and converting that into a total experience for your customers. With that note, Ekta, would you want to open the session for some questions or you'd want to move to the panelist? Ekta?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Kevin, for interesting insights. So, as Gavin mentioned, do we have any questions we can take before we move to the roundtable discussion?
Ekta, yeah, I have a question.
Yes,
Am I
please.
audible? Okay. So, given thanks for that brief overview about your solution as well. The
Hmm.
case study that you talked about, right? Somehow I wasn't able to
Right.
get the what business problem it was solving and what was the kind of impact.
Okay. So the primary impact or the primary use case that this customer came to us with was basically in 2018, where they were facing a lot of surge in demand in peak periods, right? And in order to scale up and scale down on an on-premise kind of a solution was practically impossible with the lot of infrastructure requirements. That's where Avaya One Cloud came in and basically brought that flexibility in the gamut in which they were dealing, and that was the first step. The second step was basically getting the best of the breed applications across the stack of applications that Avaya had partnerships across, right? So the likes of analytics platforms from Verint, right? The likes of workforce management solutions from Verint, or maybe any other uh, workforce engagement management leader. We could leverage that because we could bring them onto our platform seamlessly because which we basically leveraged our partnerships in the past, right? And they were readily available on this Avaya One Cloud as a platform rather than me going and tying up with a particular vendor and just bringing him to orchestrate a need of that customer, wherein we were tightly integrated, right? So that gave them a faster go to market with their customers. They could deliver a solution as close as 3 to 4 weeks, right? So that's the kind of agility they also received. And that's where they today, along with the entire strength that they serve their customers across healthcare, technology vendors, um, a lot of other segments that they look at, BFSI as well, they are able to scale up to 100,000 plus agents today, right?
Okay, sure. So the first part that you mentioned is the typical cloud use case, right? Which is more on the scalability part.
True, true. And that's what differentiates Avaya because although we are one of the vendors in the cloud scenario, but since our platform is is more than a deployment model, it's a platform that creates orchestration across other vendors as well, right? So it becomes easier for a customer to deploy multiple aspects of the customer experience journey.
Okay. And is this your own cloud or Avaya cloud, or you again, because you mentioned about your partnership with IBM AWS and all of that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
is that
So
your own cloud?
this is our own cloud.
Okay.
However, in case you'd want to interact with other cloud vendors as well for maybe
Hmm.
applications like a CRM, right? So
Got it.
today, most customers already have housed their applications in multiple data centers across the clouds that they provide. We could orchestrate that piece for you as well.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. So I hope Mr. Venkat, the question was answered. So
Yeah, yeah.
any
Thanks,
other,
Ekta.
yeah. So anyone else who would want to ask, and or we can move to the roundtable. We might have more questions coming during the roundtable. So we have an interesting roundtable topic which talks about BPO mega trends. You know, from the expert lens, BPO mega trends that would dominate 2022. And today I'm happy to introduce our speakers. So first, I would like to introduce Mr. Ritu Parna Bakshi. He's a Head Service Quality and Organization Excellence Customer Life Cycle Management with Sutherland Global. Ms. Vrinda Pai, Director Information Systems with 24/7 AI. Avnish Mehta, Director Business Transformation with Alorica. Mr. Sriram Pagara, Vice President Delivery and Operations with Concentrix. Mr. Vishesh Nigam, Director Intelligent Automation with Concentrix. Mr. Venkataraman Umakant, Vice President and SBU Head Analytics and IT Animation with V Technologies. I also have Mr. Bhavesh Vora from Avaya, who is going to be the co-host with me in the entire moderation. So thank you everyone for taking out your time first. And now, before I start the moderation, I would like to invite some thoughts from Mr. Bhavesh. Mr. Bhavesh, over to you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Ekta. Thanks, Gavin, for those insights. Very interesting case study you mentioned because I believe one of the panelists is from the company, Alorica. So maybe we'll hear
Perfect.
more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should
Okay.
hear more from the panelists then.
Yes, yes. So, I think while we'll discuss during the roundtable, I just want to complete Gavin's point that Mr. Venkat asked. The strength of Avaya is, today you see a lot of public clouds and, maybe about hybrid clouds. So I think most of the BPO clients of Avaya, they have been asking us for a hybrid cloud architecture. And let's talk about that today, because you can't move completely to a public cloud. There are a lot of issues, compliances, security and all. And that is where we are helping most BPOs to move to a hybrid cloud. A lot of things would be in the Avaya data center. You could still host something on your premise. You could source resources from other cloud vendors also as well. And that is where, I think we make the key differentiator. Anyway, more about that later. So I think there is an interesting topic on BPO. Uh, Personally, I think since one of the largest BPOs came in India, I think in the late 1990s, the BPO industry started probably a couple of years earlier as well, both non-voice and voice. But if I stick to voice, I have been personally involved in some of the major projects both in Gurgaon and Mumbai. When they started in the late 1990s and early 2000. And I have seen, in working with Avaya and in various forms, most BPOs come with a very big client, and or one client, and then they expand and they blossom all over the country. That is the way it has been going on. And as a solution provider to BPOs, it has always been more challenging because when we work with a bank or a telecom operator, or an e-commerce services company, you have an opportunity to manage the entire customer experience. But with BPOs, what happens is, a part of the process is outsourced. So you can only manage the customer experience for that process. Plus, over a period of time, what happens is, I mean, the BPOs host multiple applications because with each end customer, each end client, you probably adopt a different technology and things become very complicated over the course of time. And that is when they again start talking about cloud. Can you manage the whole thing for me? That is where the case study that Gavin spoke came about. Last few years, I've personally been seeing in the industry, there's a lot of digital transformation happening. One pillar is definitely cloud. Most of the services are moving to cloud. A lot of things are happening in automation because the BPO customers are working on probably fixed margins. There is a pressure on them to reduce cost, but at the same time offer a better experience. How do you do that? What amount of automation can I do? If I do want to do an automation to reduce cost, will the end client ask me? Who will fund it? I've been seeing those kind of discussions going back and forth. Would love to hear more about that, about especially the digital transformation. And of course, the last very key point is all about the employees. I mean, continuously skilling, training employees has always been a challenge for BPOs. I have seen attrition is a challenge. And sometime I don't know whether it is still a problem, but I would like to hear is BPO an interesting vertical for the smart, bright graduates who are coming from the industry? What is it that motivates to join this industry and not join some other vertical? So let's hear all our panelists touch upon these points and the other questions that Ekta would ask. So Ekta, over to you. You can start the questions and let's start I will help you with the moderation. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So now, as we know the topic, I've already told it's from the BPO mega trends that would dominate 2022. So the first question that we would like to highlight in the front of the panelists is exploring the new digital BPO landscape. And here I would like to invite the thoughts of Mr. Avnish Mehta from Alorica. So, Mr. Avnish, your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Ekta. So, like Gavin has mentioned, and actually he hit the nail on its head. So, in fact, just yesterday I was going through a surveys of the CIOs in India, like what are their top priorities in the digital landscape, right? So, the top thing which came at the at the first place was security, then cloud and virtualization, then automation and AI/ML, right? And from the typical specific BPO perspective, so there are few things which also gets added to the list is one is conversational AI capabilities or cognitive services, right? And other is knowledge management, and then is process twinning or digital twinning, right? So to understand, to do a process mining, right? So these are the few things which actually create kind of gives the holistic view of the digital landscape in a BPO. And like Gavin has mentioned, so CCAS or the contact center as a service is the biggest mega trend, which is very, very important because BPOs, while they are the forefront of customer experience and customers are very, very digitally aware or digital native, right? And uh, the clients the BPOs work with, right? They have a very diverse, heterogeneous systems. So how to manage that, right? At one place, you want to give a very standardized, consistent experience to the customers, right? On the other side, there's a lot of complexity in the systems you have to work with different clients, right? So here, CCAS or UCAS, Unified Communication as a System, or all these systems comes into place, so that you can actually work with different vendors, different systems put together, and create your you can add your own magic sauce and give that consistent experience to clients as well as customers, and create your brand value. Because BPOs, people think it might be just just at a very low in the valuation, but actually if you think about it, it lies and it actually is at the forefront of everything, be it the customer experience or the adoption of the latest digital technologies. So we are actually a data company already because we deal with the biggest amount of data on globally on earth, right? As well as the process part, right? Unless we understand the process, because we are working with so many different clients, right? So we having their own specific processes, right? So that knowledge, process management and data management, that is a core thing what we work with.
So, yeah. Bhavish, any thoughts here you want to add, or any one of the speakers would like to add about when we speak about the new web BPO digital landscape? So I'm just keeping it a little open with the speakers here.
Maybe I can go.
Sorry?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think Bishesh wants to say something. Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah,
please, Vish.
yeah, hi, Ekta, and everyone. I think one thing which I really want to quote here is we don't know whether pandemic is over or not, but last 2 years we had seen a lot of changes in the way we are delivering in our BPO today. I think at most more or less everything is changed now. No more we are behind those boundaries, and still we need to deliver the same kind of service to the end customer. So if you really see from the digital transformation perspective, last 2 years uh, had seen up, down and up, because 20 and 21 was a down phase for us, where everyone was trying to sustain in this market. They were trying to understand which should be the right way for us to continue this business. But soon we realized that technology is the only way when we don't have someone on the floor to keep answering your end customer, right? And that is where you will see robotics took robotics took edge over there. Likewise, there was another piece which came, or I will say the another avenue opened for the hackers during this pandemic time. I'm sure most of the companies experienced that, the ransom virus attack and all, because we were moving from that close boundary kind of setup to a work from home kind of setup for our agents. correct? When you are actually moving to work from home, then you need to open some firewall for the people to work from outside, where phishing is very easy for someone to do. So cybersecurity was another avenue where BPO suddenly start focusing more on, because we don't want to compromise on the client data that we are dealing on day-to-day basis. The third area which was very important, where we notice, and I think Bhavesh very clearly articulated, is the hybrid kind of model, where we need to figure out what we can keep in cloud and what we need to keep inside our boundaries. And somewhere we need to open the channel which is very safe enough to have the communication without having any leakage of the information. Still, we are meeting all the compliance and regulatory requirement, whether it's from the GDPR, PIR, HIPAA, all those compliance guidelines what we are following. We need to ensure that we are within that. So I think last 2.5 year was complete change, or I will say the paradigm shift for the BPO, the way we were delivering before and now. And every OEM, whether it's Avaya or the cloud platform or automation OEMs, everyone actually lived in their own technology, so that they can actually go in conjunction with what the demand is. And that is where you will see a lot of acquisition from the technology side as well. So lot to I think lot is changing, a lot of things are changing there. And it's a era where we all who have gray hair, we all need to now rethink what we learned in last 20-25 years. We need to go back to zero and think how we can still leverage what is new, a new BPO model, and how we can actually meet the pace of our competition. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Vishesh, for sharing your thoughts on this. The second interesting question that we have for the panelists is like understanding how emotionally aware CX can be a major differentiator when it comes to the BPO. So here I would like to invite thoughts of Mr. Rituparna. And thank you so much, sir. I understand you are in US and it's early morning and people are sleeping there. Thank you so much for being so early. So your
No
thoughts
problem.
now
Yeah, no
on this.
problem. And sorry, yeah, thanks. Sorry for interrupting, Ekta. Yeah, thanks, Ekta and team. And sorry for my lighting. This is the way the hotel lighting is, and it is a bit dark outside, so I can't. I mean, get my drapes down. I mean. Uh, uh, Away and can't get the natural light because there's no natural light from outside at this time. So thanks for this question, Ekta. I think this is a very important thing for all of us to really focus on. In my opinion, I think this is probably amongst the one of the more important uh, things which I'm sure everybody is taking care of, but something which is also a little difficult to get a handle on, and we need to make sure that we train people the right way, and we make the right investments, because this is a bit different from, as Vishesh was saying, what was beneficial, what was core, or what was very critical a few years back. This particular aspect is becoming and will become even more critical now. Let me try to elaborate and I would say explain what I'm trying to say here. See, as humans, we live lives which are stories, and these stories are connected stories. They are not compartmentalized stories. So today, if I use, let us say, Google Pay, or I use Phone Pay, and then there is Paytm, all three are competing with each other. The user experience which I get from first two apps, the third app also needs to have a similar user experience or better user experience. And if Paytm starts giving better user experience, then the others need to catch up. Now, this does not stop at only the, for instance, the payment apps. This connected and not compartmentalized way we live lives, this gets extrapolated to almost everything, whether it is online shopping, whether it is ordering food, whether it is my uh, physical experiences of going to stores. The experiences which I go through, uh, they start we start expecting things, and because again, as I said, these stories are all connected. These are not compartmentalized stories. Yes, there is some compartmentalization. For instance, I mean, I won't go into the examples right now, but in general, things are reasonably connected, and people try to meet the expectations which these are having story. I mean, these individual stories become quite important. Now, in this, from this point of view, one thing which I would like to definitely talk about is that there is no shortcut available in terms of not making the investments in technology, not putting the right amount of investment in creating the right user experience, the right UI of the app. There's no way out. We cannot afford to have MVPs and hope that that will work. I mean, somewhere we need to decide between uh, creating a MVP with minimum investment versus really having done the investments right away in, let's say, a new app we are going to launch, because if we don't, then anyway the user adoption is going to be low, because people are starting to expect exceptional experience in each and every interaction they have, and the pandemic has only increased the digital interactions that they have been having with the channel. Now, continuing on this thought here, which is of people having connected experiences and stories. Uh, we need to, I think, apart. So one point which I said is the investment in technology. There is no running away from it. Investment in creating the right user experience, creating the right UIs. There is no going away from it. We have to do that, and also uh, in order for us to do that, uh, and I'll come to the BPO part in just 1 minute here, but in order to do that, it is very important to know the exact specific needs and experiences of the users. It is very, very important to understand who my users are, who my target users are, who are the users who give me the maximum revenue, and going in the middle of them, living their lives, using design thinking, and coming up with true user experiences, not just based on certain generalizations and use cases, and then using creativity to really try to do better than others and give that those experiences to the user. So one quick I would say uh, experience I'm recalling is I was traveling recently a few days back on KLM, Royal Dutch, and when the instead of the routine uh, what do you say, where they tell about the safety instructions, what they had is they had a famous artist who had drawn sketches on safety instructions, and you could see that there is there are those sketches in front of your screen, which are nothing but pieces of art, which are slowly unfolding to tell you about the safety instructions. Now, they have gone beyond by engaging with a reputed, with a famous artist to create those pieces of art, which explain you how your uh, on the safety instructions in the airline. So this is something which these are the kind of investments which people will need to make in order for customers really to start using their platforms and remember and use their services. And people who do not do that will probably get I would say, would take a back seat. They would get, they will not be having as good a customer base. I personally have uh, changed the salary bank of my account, and this is something which is a fact, because the user interface of the app was not good. So that was my only reason why I changed my salary account from one bank to the other bank, only because of the app's user interface and nothing else. So it is important for us to do that. I'll go with one last thought here, which is uh, having a culture of empathy and listening across. And I will like to quote two uh, examples here. One is I know a few years back, Michael Dell inaugurated the listening center. It was a huge investment within Dell. Uh, we at that time had also done something similar in HP. And the point about listening center is that in the contact center, when we have interactions with the customers, we really try to understand what the frustrations of the customers are, what the experiences of the customers are, how we can get the information from those interactions, because those are our key channels of communicating and interacting with the users of our products, and use them to feed that information back into our products, into various teams, and do that not only in a uh, not only using technology, and not only uh, I would say in very canned or generalized ways, but really looking at those interactions from a design thinking point of view, and trying what to see what experiences are the customers getting. Can we pilot different experiences? So again, using that as a channel to do that. In order to do that, I'm sorry for taking a lot of time. I'll just take a few more seconds here. But in order to do that, the last thought I want to leave here, uh, on the to the audience here, is that in order for us to do that, in order for our 20 some things and other people who are interacting with customers in the US, for them, or in other places, for them to do that, they really need to be trained and understand the entire context. They need to be able to empathize with the users who are using the services. And in order for us to take the BPOs to the next level, so that our clients get the right insights, we need to make sure that these 20 somethings, or people like us who are working in the contact center, we give an opportunity for them to really to train them, for them to be able to understand and be able to put themselves in the shoes of the customers, and to understand what kind of experiences those people are using. And again, this is all investment, investing in the right resources, right skill set, and also maybe investing in having them maybe go and live their lives for some part of the time in the geographies that they are supporting. Again, uh, I mean, we need to, I think, go a little out of the box from what we have been doing in the last 20 years, and see how we can really, I think, create the next level of value by using emotionally aware customer experiences. So I'll stop here, Ekta.
Thank you, Mr. Rituparna. So now moving on the same question, I would like to invite thoughts from Mr. Bhavesh. So, Mr. Bhavesh, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I think Rituparna has gotten very interesting points. And if I just pick up two of those things, I think, you have to keep doing innovative things to keep the customer, engaged. He gave a very nice example of the KLM Airlines. And, and of course, investment in technology is important, but no amount of investment can replace a person who's able to empathetically engage with the customer. But a couple of things which I am seeing from my interactions with BPOs today, where the investment is going, and customer BPO customers are specifically looking at ways and means. How can I, one is if I have to identify, understand the tone or you know, the dissatisfaction of a customer or a happiness of a customer on a real time basis. So maybe I'm on a live call with a customer. Can I identify the tone and the way he's engaging with the agent? Is he really happy? Is he dissatisfied? Is he getting furious? Is there a possibility of him, probably leaving the company altogether, which you would come to know at a much later stage. So today, a lot of those kind of things are available, not only on real time also, but even historical. So when I say historical, it is not just for voice interactions, but even text interactions like web chat and email interactions. What is happening is that the interactions will be completed today. After the at the end of the week or after a few days, a quality team would listen to some of the interactions, maybe 1%, 2%, and then kind of analyze. Okay, this is the trend of the customer which is happening. Probably this is the level of the agent. But today, with the tools of automation and analytics, I can actually browse through the entire recordings, whether it is voice recordings, chat transcripts, or email, and identify the trends. Who are the good agents? What are the real issues for customers being dissatisfied when they're interacting with the customers? So these are the things, I think BPOs are looking for. Earlier, probably they were very, very expensive, but now it is available at a very, very cost effective way, and even available in multiple languages. So even if it is a domestic BPO or international BPO, these kind of things are a reality today. I just wanted to bring one specific point on that, Ekta. And
Yeah.
Rituparam, thanks. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Ekta, yeah, just to add few points on that. So thanks, Bhavesh and
Of
Rituparna.
course,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a very interesting thing you just so definitely, when we're talking about the human touch, where empathy and emotions are involved, right? And a very good point, Bhavesh, you said that getting proactive versus versus retroactive, right? You are looking in just reactive
Mm.
there, right? So one of the things which we definitely look at is definitely where the human touch is required in the first place, right? So that is where we talk about augmented intelligence, right? For example, if you I so what is happening, right? The changes in the current generation is that they are more textual rather than verbal, right? They don't like to talk, right? So in the routine things, people like to they don't want to talk to people because that kind of adds a overhead, emotional overhead, right? But suppose somebody is in an accident, right? Would they like to talk to a machine or a human, right? So that's these kind of scenarios, like in an accident, it's better while agent asks or talks to a person, like, are you okay, give them strength, and talk that way. And in the meanwhile, the system, right, the bots and virtual AI systems, they are actually getting the information and sending help, right? So that augmented intelligence is really really important. So definitely the voice analytics, which pays you which thing you mentioned, right? So voice analytics at the real time, which tells the tone of the customer when they're talking, and also on the chat based system, the sentiment analysis, right? So it's always good for real time analytics so that you can actually engage better with the customer and retain them, engage them, right? Because every agent has their own way of own emotional aptitude. So their understanding is different, their behavior is different. So how do we manage that, right? So there, that's where this augmented intelligence systems really really help us, the BPOs, to give a very consistent and much better CX than what can be expected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
Avinash.
please. Yeah, please. Yes, Miss Venkat, I saw you
Oh,
raising
okay.
your.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stop myself. A lot of interesting points that came up from Ritupan, Bhavesh, and Avnish as well. Is when we talk about this customer experience, I know Ritupan talked about being there, trying to understand the requirement. I think that's absolutely important. And when you talked about the KLM thing, it reminded me of the Singapore Airlines, which was probably about 15 years back. That point in time, if you look at it, really the analytics or AI wasn't available. But one of the things that they used to do was, especially in the business class, if you used to travel, they used to really remember who actually prefers what kind of drink, and they used to go and offer that. So that's the kind of experience that they used to create, right? And while one is important about understanding what the needs are, the said and the unsaid needs as well. What is more important, because I come more from a tech background, while I've been associated BPO, is to really keep it simple. The fact that we like Google page or Wikipedia or Apple phone or iPod is, of course, they're technically extremely good, but the most important thing is to keep it very simple. Now, I remember when I met one of the client, he said, if you're actually providing a user manual or operating manual, which means the product is not good. It should be so intuitive that they should be able to just use it. So I think a lot of times we tend to make things complex, but while all the points that are made are very relevant, keeping it simple is absolutely critical.
Right, thanks. The only
Yeah,
thing I'll
Yeah.
also add, in addition to that, Venkat, is
Yeah.
yes, keeping things simple is important, but then it is also important to project the same brand uh, emotion,
Yes.
the same emotion across the multiple experiences. So I'm referring to, for instance, one of a client of ours earlier, which was ASOS, which is a fashion retailer.
Mm.
And in the chats, in the communications, they always wanted us to talk with what they used to say, the ASOS way of chatting, so the entire language,
Mhm.
Mm.
everything was consistent. So even in an airline, for instance, or when you're
Yeah,
traveling, there has to be a single emotion, and then there has to be a designed blend of emotions which need to come in. You can't have patches of emotions into a single offline and online experience, whether it is your app, your physical store, your interactions with customer service. The emotions, the themes have to be integrated across uh, the journey, and it has to be planned, either single emotion or planned blend of emotions. Those experiences.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Not agree more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. Yes.
And one thing which is very interesting now is we are dealing with a generation who started mobile as their first toy. So it's like their comfort with the technology, their expectation is very different. No one told them how to key in something. They themselves learned how to swap and play around with the application. So if you'll tell them follow the user manual, certainly what Venkat mentioned, I don't think they will really go for that particular product at all. So
And that's a wonderful point that you brought out, Vishesh, because while we talk about the current generation, right, there are people who are seasoned in the industry as well. I remember you mentioned that there's so much of learning that we had in the 2 decades or so. We need to sort of unlearn and then learn new things.
correct.
I think that becomes very important. And I'm saying that because in my previous role, where I was the founding member of Future Skills Prime Initiative from NASCOM, the whole idea was to really build an additional mindset, right? Because you have the new generation coming in who are probably very tech savvy, and you have the other generation who are probably very good at domain, but they probably do not really understand technology to that extent. Because unless you have the digital mindset, you can't really look at the area of possibilities there in terms of where technology can be leveraged to really optimize it.
Yes, and the customer experience is the key because I think
Absolutely.
today customer loyalty is out of context. We only work how we can retain the customer. NPS, CSAT, all those things are kind of nightmare because there's no monopoly. A lot of
Yeah.
options are there for them to
Yeah.
switch in no time, and switching also is like a few click away kind of thing. So I think, and at the same time, they wanted to have engagement with the customer care or the BPO world through their preferred channel. They are
Right.
not comfortable that I will always go and dial IVR. I will not go by the
Mm.
email, or I will go by the chat, or I will go. They want all the avenues open for them. They want, if they are comfortable with WhatsApp, they want to be connected on WhatsApp channel, social media channel. They're everywhere. And now the biggest challenge what we have is to be consistent across. When you are replying someone through IVR, the same customer might be reaching out to you for the same query and testing you through Twitter handle or through some other email channel. So coming same query from the same customer from different channel, we need to be consistent in our response. And you know that the business is changing daily. Sometime there likely that your one response may differ from the other response, and you will have another news on the trolling about you. So brand is always at risk with the current disruption what we are having, and the generation with whom we are dealing is so smart that they are always trying to find that gap. The it's not only for the BPO, it's for the business altogether to survive and be competent with the millionaire of users is not that easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think we had interesting insights from the second point being about emotionally aware. Now moving to one more interesting point, that is transformation of the BPO services in India. So here I want to invite thought from Mr. Sriram P from Concentrix. So Mr. Sriram, what are your thoughts on the same?
I hope you can hear me, everyone.
Yeah,
Good
Yeah.
evening
perfectly.
and good morning, Mr. Rituparnath. I guess it's it's in the morning there, so good to have each one of you here. So I think all of us are veterans in the industry, and I don't need to kind of preach what's happening around. But my experience in the last 20-22 years in this industry, I think the legacy work and legacy businesses are becoming obsolete in all forms and shape, especially the back offices work. I'm seeing a lot of automation really killing the kind of work that we used to do. It's of course becoming far more intense, far more intelligent, and far more need for a significant decision making capability, including in the back office spaces. but more importantly, from my view, we talked a lot about intelligence, automation, digitization, etc., in the previous talks, right? I, I see a significant hold of all of these, and especially the automation on our industry specifically, which is playing a role, and digitization, and of course, and a need for better CX is driving organizations to acquisitions, etc., including mine. We are really looking at less of CRM, the so-called innate historical business, and more of now the digital business, and we're slowly becoming a BPO that is significantly foraying as a service provider into the world of automation and digitization, right? And which is comes from the new legacy of the organization, or maybe the catalyst, the tiger spikes of this world that our company is beginning to acquire, right? And this is my read that it's only going to get aggressive, and it's going to kind of become the new age of life for the BPO, and in essence, the industry is going to change the fabric in the next 5 years. I think COVID has done a lot of good and a lot of bad as well, in a way, right? So the historical skill sets that we were employing, the kind of work that was running into India, is gradually changing, right? And COVID has done good in terms of fastening that automation and digitization. Probably it has done the work of a catalyst that probably spins the world much more faster now, and that's going to probably take us to a different level of work types, and no longer are those validations, aggregations, the small error checking, proofing, data entry, those are gone, right? And I don't see that even at 1% of the jobs that we really do. And now is the time where we talked about CX, personalization, advanced analytics, right, and timely delivery of work, and much ahead of, should I say, personalization. Now we're talking about emotionally, how do you connect with customers, etc. So from a trending perspective, if I and that's the topic that I'm supposed to kind of address, is yes, we talked a lot about emotionally aware CX, right? And there are now bots, tools, RPAs that are available, which are tracking how the customer is feeling, right? And through the journey of the sales experience, usage of the product or the service, right? And the end-to-end happiness index, so-called, for the user, and of course the there's a lot of chat and talk about consistency of it across multiple channels. So uh, the the new word for that is omni, right? Omni channel supports, right? And in whatever way, physical, chat, live, SMS, right? And in all forms and shape, including in offices, right? It's one seamless communication, it's one seamless experience that the customers today expect. And then you're really looking at how do you, so to really make that happen, right? And how do you integrate the employee experience with the customer experience? Now they have to assimilate, and somebody really talked about how, as a staff member, I'm able to relate and really talk the company's way, right? It's very important for us to integrate, and hence there's more personalization towards a brand, and the brand values more than who they work for. They now belong to the customer that they serve, really, right? And many of us in this industry will agree that that personalization more and more is increasing. Then of course, Gavin and the team earlier talked about the cloud technologies, the way that technology is really disrupting. I see that coming in a big way, right? And right from how the telephony, service desk tickets, the CRMs, the contact center technologies are really coming together to provide a seamless service. And I guess that's one trend, which are more of allied cloud technologies, is what probably I will call this. And how does that bring speed and efficiency to the way that we serve? So that's going to significantly change, or that's changing, in fact. And then someone talked about the real-time expertise or real-time analytics or insights per se, right? That seems to be the key ask in every client interaction or an executive interactions that we really do. The ask for insights and the value to really tell them where their customer is headed to, what they're feeling. So there are quite a few things by segments. There are analytics now which can really decipher customer behavior, the want of sales needs, the want of a product. So my sense is analytics is embedded into BPOs like never before. And of course, not to mention the need for the AI, right? And it's now integrated with the the human in much higher way and more smarter way, and how does the human effectively utilize the AI, including the likes of bots and RPAs, to make a truly seamless experience. And the AI predominantly is transforming all the digital experiences, right? And I read yesterday in one of the articles that almost 52% of India's population is on social media. Think about the power of digitization, right? And we've come a very long way, and of course the Western countries are far more evolved, but my sense is the need for far more better, effective, automated, emotionally aware, and technology intensive is the need for the BPO. And I see goodness for the BPO from all of this COVID, right? And be it how we've learned our way through the hybrid working environment with COVID and all that, right? And we've now evolved significantly over the last 2 years. So COVID has done a lot of good, right, to the industry as well. So my sense is the next 5 years is going to be exciting, while the Western world is slightly seeing reduced growth, and the markets are telling the story. But in the next 5 to 10 years, there are the age of digitization and automation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sriram, for sharing your thoughts. Moving on to the next question we have is, how does the increasing digitization benefits the BPO industry? And here, first, I would like to invite the thoughts from Vrinda from 24/7 AI. So, Vrinda, over to you. Your thoughts on this.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Uh, so, some of the interesting points brought up by the earlier speakers, I was just noting down. Some of the words that were very interesting were effortless experience, today's generation being more textual and impatient, customized customer need, like the drink of choice, for example, right? And a very interesting point, banking application being not good and change the account, right? Plus that trolling where there's an issue. So digitization, I think, addresses many of these problems. One, it does certainly reduce the turnaround time to address customer queries, right? Because the customer has a choice of channel. Someone wants to call, somebody wants to use Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever is their channel of choice. Information, the same information has to be made available, like somebody mentioned earlier, and that they don't need to wait, for your working hours or for the time that somebody understands the problem and responds, because information that they need is available to them whenever they need it. Similarly, digitization should help in having one golden data source, right? The golden copy. What happens is, like, end users don't choose one channel. They could call you, then they could write you a mail, they could send you a message, right? And there has to be a continuity of the discussion between the customer and the organization without having the employees go on repeating the same question about what the issue was, what was done so far. It not only takes up a lot of energy and effort from the agents, but also irritates and annoys the customer when they have to provide the same information repeatedly. When with digitalization, we can ensure that all information is available, continuity is there. It provides a great customer experience when they call and we know what they have called for and we are able to resolve the issue. Coming from an organization perspective, it reduces the cost of the transaction, because more and more standard customer queries can be handled through automation, right? Through bots, maybe increasing the number of transactions that can be handled at lower costs. Similarly, we can identify the common issues and concerns that people are reporting or reaching out to us for, and see if common fixes can be done to reduce these customer issues once and for all. Coming from an employee perspective, employees find it easier to handle more transactions effectively with backend systems providing right information at the right time. It also releases human capital to handle more complex issues which need more skill, keeping it more interesting and relevant to the generation of today. Right? Also, more jobs in skillful activities like automation or any activity related to digitalization. So, summing it up, it has to be an effortless experience, and that can be made only through having all the data together, providing multi channel and anytime resolution for most common issues, customizing the requirements and answers to customer queries. An interesting thought was I didn't change my bank account because the app was so good, right? Somebody mentioned that, and that's really true. Because if my online experience is not good, I don't want to bank with them because it just takes up too much of my time and energy, right? Trying to figure it out. And today, one of the biggest concerns is people are very impatient. One bad experience, and you will be trolled forever. So, automation and digitalization should ideally help reduce these kind of issues. So, it benefits the BPO, it benefits the agents, it benefits the customers, right? Cost, time, effort, and improving the skill. That's how it helps. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vrinda, for sharing your thoughts. Moving on to the same question, I would like to invite thoughts from Mr. Venkataraman from V Technologies. So, your thought, Mr. Venkataraman, on this point.
Thanks, Ekta. Okay, so I'll probably start with the macro and then come to the micro. So we all know, I think there was mention about how the pandemic has actually accelerated the adoption of digital as well. Now, even though we have accelerated in the last 2 years, we've still a lot more to cover. Like I was just looking at one of the McKinsey report a couple of days back, and it said that the overall, the worldwide across the globe, the company spent about 230 billion on managing the business processes, right? So various business processes ranging from your customer function, customer service function to call center to back office and all of that. And even if you look at today, most of the deals, the share of these digital technologies are still less, and it's only expected to grow. So that's a good news that this is here to stay, and there's a lot more opportunity coming in here. In terms of the benefit, what I see is I would sort of sum it up in three E's, right? So the first is efficiency, the second is effectiveness, and the third, as everybody spoke about, is the experience. How do you sort of bring in a consistency in the experience, irrespective of which channel they leverage? And efficiency and effectiveness is where all the other technologies that we talked about in terms of cloud, in terms of analytics, AI, RPA, all of that come in. Now, one important aspect that I sort of come across is there is this frequent skilling that is required across the board, right? It's not just the folks who are on the floor working on it, but including the sales team as well. Because the conversations today are going completely different from what it used to be earlier, right? So earlier it probably just based on the volume of the transactions you discussed on the deal value and close it. Today, the kind of deal structure that you're sort of discussing is completely different, right? In certain cases, you're also looking at kind of a partnership thing where you say, uh, we take up with a particular price and then we start to reduce the price as we get more technology come in and we see a value there. And then it could be on a sharing mode as well. So in terms of the business model also, there is a lot of things that are evolving these days. And especially in automation, where I see a lot of gap in the market also is the understanding, right? So I keep telling the clients also and my internal stakeholders as well, as a fundamental thing, right? Anything that can be automated need not be automated, right? So sometimes it's an overkill. So it's important to identify what process we need to automate. And there is a myth saying that automation always relates to FT reduction or cost reduction. That may not be the case always, right? Because there are cases where the process could be complex. It's more about the accuracy, or it could be more in terms of the number of processes that can churn out over a period of time. Because unless a human, the bots are not going to really have that fatigue factor also in. Now, I remember, I don't know if it was Bhavesh or somebody, they mentioned about these processes also, right? So earlier, if you look at it, we used to get companies used to get certain areas of processes that you have to work on. But today, with this digital thing, just because you have to drive the ROI, and ROI can be done only when you're sort of driving it end to end, right? That's when the ROI gets enhanced. So that's also opening opportunities for the organizations to get more complex processes as well into their gamut, right? So that when they implement technology, it actually improves the overall ROI for the client and for themselves as well. Now, you talk about the insights. there has been a consistent change, right? So initially it was more about we had a lot of data, you churn out some insights, which is more of descriptive in nature. We move from there to retrospective. Now we are looking at predictive as well, right? So how do you sort of predict in terms of how it would happen? For example, in our case, in the healthcare space as well, there were a lot that we're doing in the retrospective space, and now we're looking at the prospective, right? So that even before a patient walks in, we could sort of anticipate what kind of thing needs to be done. So it's sort of an upselling for them. And even if you look at from an automation perspective, initially it all started off with small scripts that could do automation. Then we had bots, and then we had this OCR techniques as well, which helps scan through documents and expedites the process. And now we are sort of talking about cognitive bots, right, which is a combination of AI and your RPA as well. So that's how it is evolving. So there is a huge potential that I see here, and the potentials or the benefit can be derived only when the organization is geared up for that, right? And the most important thing here is it's not just the technology alone, right? Because BPO per se is more on the processes side. So the domain knowledge that they have is, of course, I would say it's a gold mine, right? Because if you don't understand the process, there can be nothing that you can do with the technology. So the real value will come in where you have the technology, the domain, and the soft skills as well combined together. That's where the real value comes in. And especially for an organization like ours, which is like a conglomerate, it really helps because while within our organization, IT is not just support as a support function, it is also there as a separate entity, right? So certainly helps when we have the domain expertise clubbed in together with the technology as well. So it gives us a lot more better value. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'd like to invite Mr. Avnish thoughts on the same. Mr. Avnish, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having some problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
network issues. Yeah. So, Ekta, can you repeat that? Sorry, I missed that because of network issue. Yeah, can you hear me?
Ekta, I think you're mute, Ekta. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So the question that was put to Ms. Vrinda and Venkataraman was, how does the increasing digitalization benefits the BPO industry?
Okay, so see, when we talk about digitalization, right? So it's the process part, right? Uh, uh, like Venkat also mentioned, right? So it's about technology, domain knowledge, and interpersonal skills, right? So definitely in digitalization, so one of the major thing or trend what I see moving forward is the process mining, right? In process mining, especially when we want to create digital twins, right? So definitely, there are different aspects, why we want to go for that, right? So there could be, we want to understand, the automation potential, right? Robotic process mining. So there's, the tools are there which can, capture UI logs, understand it, right? Then we have a understanding the sequence and the cause and effect, aspects of the process mining, right? And then we have the simulations, right? And the best part about simulations is definitely, you just change a few parameters and see how it will impact the whole process, and you can re-engineer that without spending too much money. So definitely digitalization gives you that data, be it the system logs, be it the UI scraping or other ways to capture that, right? So definitely it adds a lot of value to the BPO companies and the clients and the larger ecosystem, because you are not just touching the things in a transactional way. You are actually going across the ecosystem and understanding everything at a very large scale, and then putting those insights back into the system.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
And
am
Ekta,
I
just
audible?
yeah,
Yeah, you
Ekta,
can.
just wanted to
Yeah,
add
yeah.
one point,
Yes, Mr. Venkat,
if I
please,
may.
please
Yeah.
go ahead.
So the other important thing that we talked about is when you come about the benefits of digitalization is also see today if you look at the industry, I think when Bhavesh started off also he mentioned about the churn, right? So resource is a major constraint today, right? And this digitalization is actually either helping free up some resource bandwidth that can be deployed in some other areas or repurpose them as well. So it's sort of a gold mine today because that's something which is really in scarcity today. We are finding it difficult to really get resources who are skilled enough to get in the market. And I think that's the positive side of how digitization could help.
That's true.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So now moving to Mr. Bhavesh, your thoughts on the similar point that
Yeah, Ekta, I'll just
shared by
make two
Devin.
quick. I'll make two quick points. I think very good points gotten by Brinda and even Sriram and what Venkat maintained. I think all of us spoke about the digital channels, social media, and all. And I want to give some live examples. Where I'm working, and there's an automobile company with whom we are working with who has outsourced their lead management to a BPO. But for some reason, the social media interactions they have kept it in house with the marketing team. So while it is in a sense it is multi-channel or you may say omni-channel, but it is not omni-channel because customers who tweet or go to the Facebook page and the same person supposing comes on the website and registers himself, he gets two calls, two interactions. So they're not able to identify. So I think one thing about digitization is while we want to do omni-channel, execution of omni-channel is very very difficult. I would not say difficult; it is expensive also, and a lot of effort is required. And that is where I think with the resource crunch and all, I think moving to cloud, we spoke a lot about cloud actually. Moving to cloud and manage outsourcing the technology headache with the technology providers can help. So because most of you are from the business side, I understand it is a wish list. Everybody wants to provide all the digital channels, but the experience really needs to be seamless. As like one of the customers was saying, if you call a crappy call center, the IVR is so bad, it is as bad as the air conditioning remote. And today, the AC remote is one of the most complex devices. I mean, there are so many buttons, so many options. Nobody knows, and nobody wants to read the manual, right? I just want to start the AC and set the temperature. So I think making it easy and basically is very very key. Otherwise, you will not see the benefits of digitization. That's the point I want to make it.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavesh,
Yeah.
for quickly summarizing that. Now, moving to the last and a very interesting point that we have is
Hmm.
investing in training, development, and technology to increase the skills of the workforce today, workers. So, I would like to first invite the thoughts of Mr. Vishesh on this.
Okay. Yeah. So I was still in the thought which we were talking more from the transformation and how
Hmm.
this is impacting uh, BPO. But if you see all these things, one very good point raised by Venkat is the resource, because to enable everything what we are talking today, I think one thing which we are struggling today is to have right talent in place. It is not like that talent is not available in the market, but all in the call. I'm sure you all are having some kind of people management responsibility, and we are actually dealing with this kind of triangle situation. We have demand, where our customers are asking for more and more transformation. We have attrition on the other side, and then when we are going for the backfill and the hiring, we are seeing the same skill is available with 2x or 3x cost today. So somewhere I think this disruption and the demand for the skills and the technology certainly lead to another thought, how we can have a more sustainable model to meet this demand. And that is
Hmm.
where the skill is another area as a BPO or as any organization we certainly need to focus on. Now when we are talking about training or enabling these things, certainly we really like to focus on key technologies that are trending today. One is like everyone talked about artificial intelligence or machine learning. Now, irrespective whether you are in back office or in front office, in voice bot or chat bot, or we are dealing with the simple invoice processing kind of model, uh, machine learning is everywhere. And someone said that it's no more artificial intelligence, is kind of a augmented intelligence that we really want to embed in our BPO model. So this, even when our agents or advisors are talking with a customer, somewhere there is a bot or some kind of AI enabled system assisting them to be more smarter during the call. So with that, now it's the other skill which we touched on the robotics side. I believe robotics is something which was buzzword um, 6 years or 7 years back or decade back, when someone was talking about RPA versus big data, who will take the leap over other. Um, one thing which is happening now is all the technologies are converging. So we are not looking for someone who is only expert in RPA or AIML or Python or some other programming skills. We want someone who can actually uh, have have understanding of all these technologies and can do the integrator job very well for us. Because when we are going to automate any of the process, the one skill will not help. For example, if I'm talking about any kind of automation on IVR, um, uh, from the Avaya perspective, if dialer is coming up with the information about the client, immediately I need to stitch it with the my CRM so that I will have complete history about that person. At the same time, I should pull the social media listeners that what this guy was talking on social media sites so that I know the mindset of the person. I can plan my talk accordingly. uh, we should not ask the same question again and again to with the customer. We can actually go and actually use some contextual information